personal power. That, when you have that on the inside, it radiates out to other people. And that is what really, when we think about charisma, actors or, people in the public eye that have
Right.
charisma or that X factor, what we're really seeing and experiencing is their personal power. They believe in themselves. They
Wow.
believe that they deserve to be seen. They believe that that they deserve to be in the spotlight, right? It's their belief system that we are responding to.
This is By Joey Joanne Season 2. I'm your host, Joanne Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. As a Hollywood actress, she embodied the art of influence on stages and televisions for over 20 years on shows such as Friends, CSI Miami, Modern Family, and many more. Today, as a keynote speaker, executive coach, and consultant, she has guided senior leaders at major corporations to deliver standout presentations and keynotes, successfully win promotions, achieve desired outcomes from strategic conversations, and discover authentic, confident, and purposeful leadership. Drawing on her own transformational journey, she specializes in teaching leaders how to build presence and influence by cultivating greater personal power. Over the last 10 years, she has coached hundreds of professionals and facilitated dozens of workshops for companies such as Deloitte, TSG Consumer, Amex, Cisco, just to name a few. And she's here today to empower you to do the work within, to do your work in the world. So, guys, help me in welcoming the powerful, influential, and highly sought after speaker, the one and only Michelle and Johnson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining so early in the morning. Really appreciate that. So, let's talk about your story and your journey. You were a popular Hollywood actress. At the same time, you were promoted to vice president at one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And you thought you would feel empowered, but the truth was you didn't. And not just that, you found yourself feeling lost, confused, and even anxious about the future. Like, why was that?
I think I had a nerve, what do you call it? A midlife crisis in my mid 30s.
Oh,
I think most people have their midlife crises in their late 40s or 50s. I had mine in my mid 30s, and I think it was a perfect storm of a lot of different circumstances that were happening in my life. Like you said, I was working in these two careers simultaneously at the same time. I was experiencing success in both of those careers. And at the same time, my personal life was having some challenges. I was going through some issues with my family. I had gone through a breakup with a boyfriend some years before, but I, just had not gotten over it. And so I found myself in this place in my life where on the outside, I had all of the trappings of success. People looked at me and thought, wow, she's got it all together. She's doing television shows and movies, and it's just incredible. And I was also projecting that as well. I was projecting that I had it all together, that I had it figured out, that I was happy. And yet on the inside, I was not happy. And so I got to a place in my life where there was just a definite fork in the road. I could continue on the same path, and I knew that if I continued on that path, I knew what it looked like. My mother had a mental illness and really struggled in her life. And so I had a very concrete example of what living a life of unhappiness and dissatisfaction and unfulfillment would look like. And I knew I didn't want that for myself. And then there was this other path that was very uncertain, very unknown. And I chose to go down the uncertain, unknown path. And I thought that I was going to just take a year sabbatical off. I had saved up enough money for a year. And that year turned into 5 years. It turned into 5 years of intense introspection, self reflection, healing, really looking at myself, going into my psyche, looking at those memories, those events in my past, really trying to figure out who I was, what my belief system was, why I believed what I believed, what I wanted my future to look like, my life to look like, what I thought my strengths were, my gifts, my natural inherent gifts and talents were, and really re-envisioned what I thought my life would look like. And so at the end of those 5 years, I had my vision board of what I wanted to really be doing in the world. And I did that based on um, what I knew. Because, when you're constructing an authentic life, there's a lot that you don't know because you are really following your own path. You're not following anyone else's script. You're not following anyone else's map. You really are trying to chart your own course. And that means that there is some uncertainty there. But what I did know was I loved to perform. I was good at that. I knew that by that point, I was a teacher. I discovered that I really am a teacher, not an actor. I was using acting to teach. But my real purpose, my real gift is teaching. So I knew I wanted to teach. I knew I wanted to work with smart people. I knew I wanted to somehow get back into the corporate world and mix all of those together in some kind of a big stew. And at the end of those 5 years, the perfect opportunity came in. That was literally what I had constructed in my mind. I just didn't even know it existed. And so that was when I began um, corporate training. I was a leadership communication consultant and was traveling around the world, including to Singapore, facilitating programs on leadership communication. And that was around 2015. That started me on the path that led me to where I am today as a keynote speaker and executive coach.
Was I have goosebumps. I'm not sure whether it's the weather is getting cold. It has been raining all day, but I'm getting goosebumps because I was so touched by your story, and because briefly I mentioned that I walked through the similar path, right? So why do you think so many, and not just you, not just me, but so many other people that I've interviewed on the show that shared a similar journey, like especially women, like we are
Mm.
high achievers and yet we are so miserable inside, like we don't even know who we are anymore despite achieving, like that's all that we know. That is insane, right? I mean, and I'm sure you are high achievers too, right, based on your
Oh, yeah.
results. So yeah, why do you think so many especially high achievers women suffer from, you know
Yeah, I think it's about, Carl Jung, who was a very prominent psychologist. He talked about the process of individuation that people go through. Hopefully, people go through a process of individuation, which is really separating from your family of origin, from your social group, from society, what society wants you to do, and really finding your own individual path, personality, preferences. Who are you as an individual? And I know from my own experience, we get caught up in life. Life tends to happen to us, right? We can get into this trap of, oh, I guess I got to do this job. Oh, I guess I got to go to school and do this path. Oh, this person wants to be my friend. Oh, this person wants to date me. Oh, this person wants to marry me. Life is happening to us, and we're acting as participants in our life instead of actually directing our lives. And so I think for a lot of women, we are conditioned to accept certain things, certain premises, to accept that life should look a certain way, that we should play a certain role in our lives. And I think that we're just in a time where we have so many options. And we can see, we have examples of people breaking out of those molds and charting their own course. And I think COVID really had a big part of that, because people were disconnected from all of the things that they had been habitually doing. And there's a big difference between habit and authenticity. Habit are the things that we do because we've always done them. They're patterns that we have, created for ourselves, or ways that we have been conditioned to act or behave. But that doesn't mean that that is authentic to you. And so I think COVID really broke patterns of going to work, patterns of doing certain things. People just had to sit with themselves and really examine. It was an opportunity to really examine themselves and their lives and ask themselves, is this really what I want to be doing? I thought this job was what I really wanted to be doing, but now that I'm baking, or now that I'm doing these things with my family, actually, that's not what I want to do. I think I want to do this instead. So it just put in a big pause in people's lives and allowed them to start to investigate and reevaluate. And I think it was yes, there was a lot of hardship and a lot of tragedy that came with COVID, but I think it also was a real opportunity for a lot of people to reassess their lives and maybe even change the trajectory of their lives and chart a new course.
I think what is even more powerful, just based on your story, is that COVID, of course, it forces to take a break, right? It broke the pattern. We couldn't go to the office, right? All we do is just sit at home and sit with ourselves, which was the most difficult thing that I ever had to do in my life. And for you, you intentionally took a break, right? 1 year turned into 5 years. And my question is, share with my listeners, you meditated for 5 years. So what was the biggest lessons you learned from meditation?
Meditation is about turning your gaze from the outside to the inside. And let me be clear. Yes, I meditated for 5 years, but I also did other things. I had to make money, doing certain things. So I wasn't just like in this state of bliss for 5 years. But my main activity was self reflection and introspection. And so meditation gave me gave me a view into myself, and it helped me to cultivate a relationship with myself. I think that that's the thing. Our biggest relationship in our lives should be with ourselves. And every other relationship we have in our life should be an offshoot of the relationship we have with ourselves. The honesty that we have with other people is a direct result of the honesty we have with ourselves. How do we know what to ask for from our relationships? How do we know what boundaries to set? How do we know how to really engage? How do we know who we really like, and what we really like to do in our relationships if we don't really know ourselves?
Mm.
And so meditation is about um, also changing the metric of success from the outside to the inside. And this goes to this idea of personal power, right? When we think about power, what usually comes to mind is what we call social power. We think we're going to feel empowered and feel powerful if we get the title, if we get the promotion, if we make more money, if we buy the house, if we do the things, right? And that's not to say that there isn't value in those things. There absolutely is. It's just that it's half the story, because personal power is really about the beliefs that you have about yourself and your place in the world. And although they are related, social power and personal power are distinct, because personal power is really about your belief system, whereas social power is really acquired from the outside. And so when I was at that, when I took my 5 year time out, I had been on the treadmill of life. I was achieving, right? You mentioned being high achievers. I was achieving and accomplishing, and I had my goals, and I was, checking off my list of goals and accomplishments. And yet I didn't have personal power. Why? Because personal power is about authenticity, it's about confidence, and it's about purpose. Authenticity, confidence, and purpose are really the frameworks. They are the foundations that create your sense of personal power. Do you believe you have agency in your life? Do you believe that your decisions, that your actions contribute to the outcomes that you experience? Or
Mm.
do you believe that life just happens to you? Right. And personal power is also about, do you believe that you can influence other people to get your wants and needs met? That's all a belief system that can be totally separate from whether or not you are getting success and getting money and getting rewards. I think life, we have many, many examples in life right now of people who are outwardly successful, but they're still insecure. They've got big egos. They're certainly not happy, and they make everyone else around them miserable as well, right?
Yeah. We know those people, right?
We all know people like that, right? And so the answer is to turn within. It's to do the work within so that you can do your work in the world. And that just requires self reflection. Self reflection is the key to self knowledge. Self knowledge is the key to self acceptance. It's the key to self esteem. It's the key to self love. It all starts with your ability to really sit with yourself in silence and be curious about who you are. Ask yourself those questions as you're going throughout your day, noticing your thoughts and your feelings. You know, it's because we all get triggered by things as we're going throughout our day. Certain things happen, and suddenly we have an emotional response. Get curious about that. Why did that upset me? If you're in a good mood, why am I in a good mood? And you'll probably start to find that your emotional responses are the result of certain beliefs that you have.
Mm.
And I think so often we take for granted that we believe certain things when really beliefs are just stories that we tell ourselves, which means that we can change the story. We can change our belief system, but first you have to know what you believe in order to change your beliefs.
Right. So okay, I'm so my questions. How do we take okay, the simplest question is how do we take our personal power back? Like you talk about agency, right? You talk about confidence, authenticity. Like how do we take our personal power back?
Well, that's a big question. So, if we look at authenticity, confidence, and purpose, those point us in the direction of what we need to do to take our power back. So, just starting
Mm.
with authenticity, I define authenticity as knowing yourself and showing yourself. You need to do both to be authentic. So knowing yourself, we've been talking about that, right? Self-reflecting, knowing, you call it 3 levels of self-awareness, right? Knowing your thoughts and feelings, your internal state. What am I thinking and feeling right now? Then there's your personality traits and preferences. What kind of music do I like? What kind of, what's my sense of humor? Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? What are my preferences? All of that. That's the personality. And then there's your lived experience. How connected are you to your lived experience? How integrated is your lived experience and all of the events that have happened in your life? How much have you integrated your life story and learned the lessons from that material, right? So that's knowing yourself. But then once you know
Mm.
yourself, then you've got to show yourself to other people, right? That's a great way to take your power back because I think so often we give our power away because we aren't sharing our authentic self with others. We're not sharing our thoughts. We're not sharing our feelings. We're not sharing our opinions. We're not sharing our story with people. And the result is people don't really know who we are. So authenticity, that's why I believe personal power really does start with authenticity. And then there's confidence. Confidence is your belief in yourself. And it really doesn't have anything to do with your actual ability because you can be great at something. I know from experience, you can be good at something and people can be telling you you're great. You're so good at podcasting, Joyanne. But if you don't believe it, you're not going to feel confident. There can be a disconnect between your belief about yourself and your actual ability. And so the work around confidence is really looking at why don't I believe in myself? What are those stories that I'm telling myself? What happened to me was, and there's some great research around confidence, and certain experiences that we use to create our feeling of confidence. It could be that, someone, maybe a teacher or a parent or someone you looked up to, gave you some feedback, said, "You're not good at XYZ. You're never going to be good at XYZ." And you internalize that, and now you believe that about yourself. It could be that you're comparing yourself to other people, right?
Mm,
People that you admire, and you're like, well, I can never be as good as that person. Therefore, you are tearing down and killing your own confidence. Or maybe you have a past experience where you failed at something. And for the audience, I'm using air quotes. You failed at something, right? You attempted to do something and you didn't do as well as you would have liked. And now you're holding on to that as evidence that you're not any good, when really, it takes time to learn something new. There's always a learning curve when you're learning a new skill, especially something with complexity. And so that early experience of failure was probably just a data point on a learning curve. And if you keep going, if you apply a learning mindset, you'll probably continue to get good at it, right? And then there's also our physiology. Sometimes when we're nervous, when we've got the butterflies, we go, uh-oh, that must mean I'm not any good because I'm nervous, when that's really not the case as well. You can be nervous and still be confident at the same time. So authenticity, confidence, and then there's purpose. So often we're going through life without motivation, without engagement. We're just doing it because, well, I got to do it. We're doing it because, it's a part of our job. We're doing it because that's what I've always done. When really, again, putting in that pause and interrupting the pattern and saying, hold on, how can I create meaning out of this experience? That's the way to take your power back. What does this mean for me? How can I connect this to my values? How can I connect this activity or experience to something that's important to me? I truly believe that every experience is an opportunity to learn something, to heal something, or to practice something.
mm,
And so, if you are approaching your experiences that you feel are drudgery, you feel it's a chore, you feel like there's no point to it, if you can reframe that as, what am I learning here? What am I learning about myself? What am I learning about life? What am I learning about other people? What can I heal about myself? Because so often we are faced with experiences that in some way mirror prior traumas that we've had in our lives. And it's an opportunity for us to approach this experience from the mature version of ourselves, rather than the old, part of ourselves that is still wounded, is still the little girl or the little boy. And then, being intentional about, can I practice a certain skill here? Can I practice, asking powerful questions if you're a podcaster? In this experience, in this interview, I'm really going to practice listening better, right? And just really putting your focus and your attention on that particular skill. Now you've created meaning, you are more focused, you're more aware, you're more intentional, you're more purposeful, and now you've taken the power back in that situation. So many different things, but for me, it really does come back to authenticity, confidence, and purpose, and utilizing those principles to practice, um, feeling more empowered, taking your power back throughout your day.
mm. Okay, right. So for people who are listening, what if they are stuck? Right, I'm also using an air quote here. Stuck in a job they are not passionate about, just because they have to support the family, just doing their 9 to 5, and they don't know what their purpose is. Where do they start looking for their purpose? Like, do they, maybe, I'm not saying after listening to this episode they will quit their job, learn from your story, like quit a job, meditate for 5 years, and eventually you'll find a purpose. I'm sure now, looking back, now you have developed a process, a framework, right, to help people get there faster. So is it the same process that you just, okay, maybe not, because you talk about purpose. So my question right now is, how do we find out, like, what is our life purpose?
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, we've been purpose shaming people. Find your purpose. Have you found your purpose? Live your life with purpose. And it can be a little overwhelming because for a lot of people, they just don't connect to that, right? So it's important to understand that there are two types of purpose. There's the purpose of your life, which is that overarching motivation that kind of orients everything else in your life. Like I talked about, I really believe my purpose is teaching, right? But not everybody connects to that. That's fine because there's also purpose within life. There's
Mm,
creating purpose for yourself. So you don't find your purpose, you can create your purpose,
I
right?
love that.
You can use any experience that is happening throughout your day to create purpose for yourself. And again, it goes back to that. This is an opportunity for me to learn something, to practice something, to heal something. And I found that um, creating purpose statements for yourself is a really great activity. It's a really great exercise. So let's say, you've got to have this meeting with this client, and your orientation is, I call it the goddess. It's something I gotta do. Somebody's making me do it. If I don't do it, I'm going to get in trouble. I just got to do it, right? I call it the goddess. We're often operating in gotta mode. And instead I want to encourage people to create a purpose statement for themselves. Instead of I got to meet with my client, I'm helping my client solve their problem. I'm excited to
Mm,
share what I know about this particular subject and help my client solve their problem. Now you've got a completely different orientation that is going to make you lean into that experience instead of avoid it, right? So I find that if we are creating purpose for ourselves throughout the day, if we are being intentional about making life more meaningful for us with the experiences that we have all the time, every single day, we start to reframe those mundane experiences that we have all the time. That can often lead to the greater purpose of your life, right? As you start to create more meaning, you will start to get the breadcrumbs that point you to what your purpose is. You don't have to wait for it to kind of drop out of the sky and hit you on the head, right? Start
yeah.
creating purpose. Again, taking your power back instead of, feeling like you've got to wait for it to somehow, the light bulb to come on. Oh, I found my purpose. No, 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 no. Start creating purpose for yourself. Start acting more intentionally, more purposefully. Start creating meaning in your life, and you'll start to find, oh, you know what? As I do this, I actually want to go back and get my coaching certification because now I've been engaging with people in a different way. I've been listening. I've been sharing my experience. I've been connecting with people in a different way. And this makes me, this makes me realize that actually I want to be a coach. You know what I'm saying? So just start with where you are right now. Start reframing your daily experiences, and that often will lead you to your grander life purpose or mission.
Yeah, I love the word reframe. So let's talk about that. You know, because everything you shared is amazing, but it takes a certain level of self awareness to even catch yourself doing that throughout your day, right? And or even just ask yourself the question like, okay, how do I create purpose here? Like I'm about to walk into the meeting, I'm about to have this Zoom. Like how do I create like we don't ask ourselves questions like this. Maybe for the past 30, 40 years, we have never asked ourselves that question. Like, we know how hard it is to create a habit, right? So let's talk about reframing. How do we deal with insecurities and limiting beliefs that we have been holding on to for so long since we were a child, right? Because that's where we develop our beliefs. So how do we reframe that limiting beliefs or insecurities or beliefs about ourselves that's not correct?
Yeah, and I love that you say it's not correct because it really is not correct. We all have weaknesses. We all have, areas that we can develop. But I think when you're looking at insecurities and limiting beliefs, those are usually not correct. And so the first thing is to become aware of what you are believing. about yourself. Become aware of the story you're telling yourself. And yes, it might take a little bit of work, but it really takes curiosity. So you, let's say you're not feeling confident. You find that every time you have, you have to do public speaking. Let's just take public speaking.
Yeah.
Let's say every time you have to get up in front of an audience, you feel deathly afraid. Have some curiosity about that instead of just having a fixed mindset of, well, that's just the way it is. I just hate being in front of an audience. Have some curiosity and take that next step and ask why. Why am I feeling this way? It's usually it's probably because there was a prior experience. Maybe in the 5th grade, you got up to do your book report and the kids laughed at you, right? And from then on, you told yourself, I am never going to get in front of an audience again, right? Or maybe there's some self-esteem issues there. Maybe there are some beliefs that you have about yourself that, it's very interesting. There was a psychologist that did some research around social anxiety disorder, the chronic form of shyness. And he found that there are four types of fears that people who have social anxiety disorder have. And I found, as with my work with public speaking and teaching people how to do, speak in front of audiences, that while it may not be the chronic form of social anxiety disorder, we all have some version. And so the 4 fears are: there's something wrong with the way I look, right? There's something, my skin, my face, my
Right.
weight, my clothes, there's something wrong with the way I look. And that's why you're insecure about yourself, right? It's your appearance. It could be, there's something wrong with my personality, right? I'm not interesting enough, or I'm too extroverted, I'm too introverted, I'm this, I'm that. It's usually going to be, I'm too much or not enough. I'm too much or not enough, right? I'm too smart. I'm not smart enough. I'm too funny. I'm not funny enough. It's usually going to be around, that's the frame that we have in our minds, right? We have fears around our social skills. I'm going to say the wrong thing. Um, I'm going to say something to embarrass myself. I'm weird. People are going to think I'm weird, right? We have those kinds of fears. And then we have fears around, people are going to tell I'm nervous. I'm going to blush. My palms are going to get sweaty. So those are the kinds of fears or insecurities that we can start to have about ourselves. And so it's, again, get curious. I don't believe that we come into the world with insecurities. Insecurities develop over time, and they develop by internalizing certain experiences that we have or messages that we get. Or it can just be, a child's brain hasn't fully developed and experiences happen. And in a child's brain, we go, oh, it's my fault. It's me. I'm bad. I'm wrong. And we just carry those insecurities and limiting beliefs throughout our lives. So, do exercises, write down, what do I believe about myself? What is that insecurity? And we all have a couple of insecurities that we've been struggling with our whole lives. There's something, I'm ugly. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. I'm not smart enough. I can't do this right. Whatever that is, right? I'm too much or not enough. That's generally going to be the frame. Or if you think about something that you want to accomplish in your life, I really want to write that book. I really want to be, a teacher. I really want to be a business owner. What is that little voice that says, no, you can't do that? You can't do that because XYZ. That little because XYZ, that's the limiting belief that you are now going to have an opportunity to examine and then reframe. Because there's probably evidence that you've been discarding in your life and disregarding in your life that disproves that belief. You probably have people in your life who are like, oh my gosh, you could totally write that book. Of course you can write a book, right? You have evidence that's telling you, but you've been disregarding it. And so it's really about looking at, what is that belief? Why, going back to the origin, why do I believe that about myself? And then making the choice. I can continue believing that, or I can choose to believe something else.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we all have a choice, right? We all can choose something else. And let's go back to personal power, because I do have another, not say question, but because I watched your keynote talk, and in one of that you mentioned personal power looks and feels different for everyone, and it should, right, look and feel different for everyone. So how do we, like, what is the question that we should ask ourselves? Like, is it just as simple as what does personal power mean to me? Like, is that the question that we ask ourselves? Because I have no idea when I was about to interview. Like, I have no idea what personal power mean to me. Like, I was just, okay, feeling confident, empowered. Like, to describe that, like, I have no idea. I don't even know where to start and how it feels like.
Yeah, and what I mean by that is we all have a unique way of expressing ourselves.
Mm,
For some people, it's more extroverted, it's more gregarious, it's the showman, it's the this, it's the that. But personal power doesn't have to look that way. Personal power can be very quiet.
mm,
I'm sure you know people who are very powerful,
yep.
but they don't say a whole lot
Yeah.
because maybe they're more introverted and they just observe. But when you ask them a question, woo, right? They drop a truth bomb on you and you're like, wow, this person is very powerful. So it's about, understanding that power doesn't have to look one way. I think we've been conditioned to think that power looks, let's just say, like a man
Yep.
who takes up a lot of space, right? Because that's just the examples that we've had of powerful people.
Mm,
And I think we're living in a time where power can look in so many different things, right? Power can look like as many different ways as there are people on the planet. And so it's really just about, feeling what power, when you feel powerful, when you feel empowered, what does it first feel like in your body? Where do you feel your power? I tend to feel my power in my throat. I'm very connected to my throat. I love to sing. I love to talk. I love the sound of my voice. My power is really around my throat and my upper chest area.
mm.
So when I'm feeling powerful, my shoulders go back, and I really just, I express my power through my voice. But maybe for you, your power is really in your stomach. Maybe for other people, their power is in their head. It just, where does power sit for you? Right. And then when you are feeling powerful, what does that how does it naturally express itself? And just play with that. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. Again, it's more about curiosity. What does it look like and what does it feel like for me? And how does it feel authentic to me? Because the last thing you want to do is pretend to be somebody else. I'm not a big fan of fake it till you make it. I'm just not. I'm not a big fan of, putting on some persona that isn't you until it feels natural. I'm much more about working from the inside out.
Okay, so how can we be authentically confident? Because you are right. Fake it till you make it works.
In the
Ways.
short
Yeah,
term,
yeah,
yes.
it works, yeah, in the short term, but long term, yeah, it's exhausting. And at the same time, um, let's say, all right, I don't know how to put it, but let's say, because all affirmations, let's just take it for example. Like I can say I'm confident. I can brainwash myself with positive beliefs about myself because I need to reframe it. I'm confident, I'm this, I'm good enough, I'm smart, right? But I don't believe it, right? Yet. I don't believe it yet. So am I not faking it till I make it? You get what I mean? At the same time, feeling imposter, like I'm not the person, but I'm trying to become the person. I'm stuck in this area where I'm trying to be the person I'm not yet to be. Like, you get what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, first of all, confidence doesn't just come from your competence at something.
Mm,
It doesn't have to just come from your competence. Because if that were the case, then that means that every time you try something new, you're going to be racked with, a lack of confidence. I really believe that we can expand our sense of confidence so that it also incorporates our inherent strengths, talents, and gifts, things that we were just born good at, or things or skills that we developed through our life experience. You know, I came out of the womb as a performer. I didn't, of course I had to, study and do more of that, but that is just a natural gift that I have. I came out of the womb with a sense of humor. That's a gift that I have. I'm a great listener. That's something that I actually had to develop. Wasn't always a great listener, but I've had to become a great listener because of life
Right.
circumstances, right? Those are skills that I can bring into any situation, regardless of how good I am at a skill. So if I'm trying something new, I've never done it before. I'm doing it for the first time. I know that I have other skills that I hang my confidence on. I know that I'm a good listener. I know that I'm resourceful. I know that I'm a problem solver, that I'll figure it out. I know that, that I'm relying on other skills and strengths besides my competence at something, right? So I think, one way to expand your confidence is to also include our inherent strengths and gifts. Maybe you are calm under pressure. Maybe you are somebody who's really great at reading people. That's something that, that's valuable. That's really, really valuable. Maybe you're a really quick learner. You just pick up on things really, really quickly. People are like, oh my God, how long have you been doing this? Oh, just for a week. Wow, you're great. Like, start to give yourself credit for those inherent strengths and talents that you have. So that's one way to start to expand our sense of confidence. And so it's really about growing your self confidence, not just your confidence in a particular skill, right? Because I think so often we're only confident if we're in our little comfort zone. And so it's really about expanding your sense of self confidence so that even if you're doing something for the first time, or you're doing something you're not yet good at it, you've got all of these other psychological and emotional resources that you can bring into that situation that will give you a greater sense of confidence. So that's one thing. The other thing is to recognize that there is a learning curve for things. There just is. And if you give yourself grace and recognize, let's say you're doing something for the first time, or you're still new at it. You've been doing it, but you're still new at it, right? You still have a lot to learn. Give yourself grace. Okay, but at this level, I'm at level 1. I'm pretty good. I know what I know. I know what I know. And I'm just going to
Mm.
keep working on that and use whatever experiences I have as opportunities to learn, to heal, to practice. Right? As long as you're focused on learning, as long as you are applying a growth mindset, it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. It doesn't matter how many failures you have. If you think about all of the great professional athletes, they're
Yeah.
usually not the ones who have the best aptitude for something. They're
Mm.
the ones that work hard. They're the ones that are going to be on the court after everybody else has gone home. They're the ones that are going to watch the playback of the last game that they just had and look at places where they can learn and grow and develop and then apply that to the next game. So having a growth mindset is really, really important when it comes to confidence. Because if you think, you know, this is it, this is my skill level, never gonna get better. Okay, well, yeah, you're gonna suffer from a lack of confidence. But if you give yourself grace, this is where I am now. I'm gonna continue to learn. I'm gonna continue to, evolve, and I will continue to get better. I take the pressure off myself to be great all the time.
Yeah, that's so beautiful because so like part of the reason I asked the question is because so many people, they came to me and say, I want to start a podcast, but right, insert their excuses, right? And one of it is imposter syndrome, right? Like who am I to start a podcast? Who will listen to me, right? So that's like you don't need confidence to start. You need courage to just try, and suck for something that you're doing for the first time. I did that, right? I wasn't born a podcaster, but I started it, right? I like no one listened to me for the first 10 episodes, but I kept going. I kept going. I became better, and now I'm interviewing a Hollywood actress. Come on. So it's like, this is proof that if I can do it, you can do it too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And why not you is the question. Instead of why me, why not you?
yeah,
Why not you? Everyone has their specialty. Everyone has their sparkle. Everyone has their genius. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves to be seen. And by the way, Joanne, I think you came up with your new slogan. It doesn't, what did you say? You don't need confidence, you need courage.
yeah.
That's so beautiful because I think that encapsulates everything we've been talking about.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I must thank you because I was so inspired by everything you said. I was feeling so empowered. I'm in my personal power today,
Yay.
and it's because of your presence. This is the last thing. I know we are running out of time, but this is the last thing that I want to talk to you about is public speaking. Like because that is really the work that you do. You help leaders to command the room, right? To build their presence and influence. Like how do we, as leaders and coaches, because I know a lot of my listeners, they are business owners, entrepreneurs, or leaders, your coaches, right? They want to command presence, they want to influence the world, they want to make an impact. But if you want to change the world, we all know that we have to change ourselves first. So, but my question is, how do you build that presence so that people really listen to you, so that you really make an impact in the world through the work that you do?
Yeah, great question. So there are certainly technical skills around public speaking, right? Presentation skills, how to walk, how to talk, how to stand, how to move, all of that. But I found in my work that really all of the things that we've been talking about around personal power, authenticity, confidence, and purpose, that presence, what we see as presence on the outside, is really a reflection of your personal power on the inside. I've
Mm,
worked with a number of people who they didn't have the technical skills of presentation skills, right? They hunched a little bit, or they weren't as graceful with the way that they moved their hands, but because they had personal power, they were riveting. They had presence. And so for anybody who feels like they want to do more public speaking, but I haven't done it before, start to do the work that Joyanne and I have been talking about today. Start to build your sense of personal power because there are so many presentation skills. You can go on YouTube and learn about presentation skills, right? But not a whole lot of people are talking about personal power and how really that, when you have that on the inside, it radiates out to other people. And that is what really, when we think about charisma, actors or, people in the public eye that have
wow,
charisma or that X factor, what we're really seeing and experiencing is their personal power. They believe in themselves. They
wow,
believe that they deserve to be seen. They believe that they deserve to be in the spotlight, right? It's their belief system that we are responding to. So start with your belief system, start with your sense of personal power, and I guarantee you when you get up in front of people, you're going to feel like, wow, I am somebody that deserves to be seen. I am somebody that people should listen to because I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm an interesting person. And, that, of course, like I said, there are technical things about that, but I find that the personal power piece is often overlooked. And I think it's 75% of what we call presence. It's
yeah,
not the presentation skills, it's the presence.
yeah, and that's what sets you apart, right, from everyone else.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. That's so powerful. And but this is not the end because we always end with our final five rapid fire questions. And every question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Great.
The first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
There's nothing wrong with me.
Second question, if you could relive one day of your life, one day do over, which day would it be?
The day I broke up with my last boyfriend.
Wow. And you laughed about it. I love that. Because,
Yes. I, I would handle that differently.
oh, okay. Okay, all right, got it. Next question. If you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Flying.
Like, like the bird,
I
like flying?
Yeah, I would love to just be able to fly, like, like a superhero. It's just something I've thought about, dreamt about since I was a child. I would love to fly. I have
Wow, okay.
dreams of flying, so yeah, would love to fly.
Or maybe skydiving then. It seems like a
Maybe. Yeah.
reasonable. Yeah, but Michelle, you are so talented and you have so many skills. The only one thing you want to learn is flying, right? Of course. All right. The next question is: if you could instantly solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
Insecurity. It would be insecurity. I think that if we taught people to become more confident, authentic, purposeful, to be more in their personal power, 90% of the problems that we have in the world would instantly go away.
Yeah, very true. Beautiful. Love that. And it's so aligned with your work and everything we talk about, which is true because I mean that's your purpose, right? And that's why you do what you do today. The last question is: what brings you the greatest joy?
Talking with people like you, honestly, yeah, being able to have these kinds of meaningful conversations
Yeah,
is everything. And so I feel immensely grateful to be able to have, this information and these experiences that I can share with people who find value in them. So that brings me a lot of joy.
beautiful. And then that's yeah, I mean that's the purpose. That's my purpose is to bring joy to the world, and that's why I podcast. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Now tell my people where they can find you if they want to work with you. Like, do you coach one on one? How do they work with you?
Yeah, I do one-on-one coaching primarily through corporate entities and organizations. But if you want to engage with me, go to my website, michelleannjohnson.com. You can also engage with me on Instagram, michelleannjohnson.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, michelleannjohnson.com. And I'm starting to do a lot more keynote speaking. So, maybe I'll be in a city where you are, and I'll be posting all of that
Oh,
information on my socials, and maybe we can interact there as well.
yeah, I can't wait. Can I get a VIP ticket or like a backstage pass? Oh, I love to. Yeah, but yeah, let me know if you happen to be in this side of the world. I would love to meet you in person. And thank you so much again for coming, and thank you so much for your time. I hope we can speak again. Have you back on the show again because there are so many things we can talk about. Guys, I know you love this episode because you are listening to the very end. So, go follow Michelle, Instagram, LinkedIn. I put all her links in the show note below, and tell her she's amazing, and tell us what is your biggest takeaway from this episode because I would love to hear it from you. And please don't just keep it to yourself. Share this episode with friends and family and help them take their personal power back today. All right. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into 5Joy podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and take 5Joy_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.